Time marches on. Time waits for no man. Those thoughts were things my mom used to tell us over and over again. Time marches on. Time waits for no man. Usually when I was late. While very annoying, those words put some imperative into me, almost into my body. An imperative to not waste time, to make a difference while I can, to use the gift of time now, to not take time for granted. The turning of the years, 2016 falling into the history books now and into our memories, and the very beginning of 2017, now signed on every check and on every planner, brings to mind this thing called time. On Christmas last week, I celebrated wonder here with you. Wonder, a moment of wonder, is a moment of transcendence, really. A moment of experiencing something beyond me and us and bigger than us. Of something, a moment that makes time stop, that makes life come to a stop, even if just for a breathless breath. And that experience of wonder is available to every single one of us, no matter our education, no matter our faith or no faith, no matter our income or our disabilities. It's only the cynical, really, the cynical who lose their wonder. But this morning, as the world celebrates the turning of the year, and the church celebrates a woman, Mary, who in time took time, time to ponder what was happening in her body, what was happening to her life. It becomes an invitation in time to take time, for us to pause, to stop and listen. Just now, even at this time of great turning for us. An invitation to do some pondering about time, time itself, our time, the time we have lived, the time we have left to live. Most of us, I suspect, rarely reflect much on where those senses and those sensibilities come from. What does time mean to you? What does time mean to us in the community of faith? What is time for? Is time a gift? Unearned, though measured it is? Or is time more of a burden for us, more of a curse, because we're always fighting it? It's almost like an enemy to us. There's never enough time. Time is running out, it seems, all the time. If we just in time took time to ponder this thing called time, the experience of time can bring us to the brink of wonder. What blows me away about time is how differently time is experienced by each of us. It blows me away how unique is the way we even tell time. Some of us tell time by measure, you know? We measure time all the time. Some of us tell time by sentiment, by feeling. We get this feeling that it's time to go now, or maybe it's time to stay. For those of us who tell time by feeling, we're usually late. because we hesitate to move on from really good experiences that feel not quite done yet. Others can't figure out why anybody would ever think like that. As you know, running down here even this morning with no shoes or socks on, my shoes and socks in my hands, saying, "Give me one more minute." Usually I'm on time on Sunday, but not today. Somebody told me once a long time ago, "Gary, I'm convinced that your ancestors came over to America on the June flower." That's true. Get it? Not the Mayflower, I see you. Turning to your wife and ask, what is he talking about? It blows me away how right Einstein was when he said that time is relative. My dad, as most of you know, was in his 99th year when he died last year. And it just occurred to me not too long ago that he had lived well over a third of the life of the United States of America. In his day, well over a third of the time that we call ourselves the United States of America. I'm telling you, that's really hard for me to fathom. And then when I think about light years, it also blows me away that everyone, rich or poor, famous or unknown, have exactly 1,440 minutes a day, 168 hours in a week, 8,700 hours in a year, and 657,000 hours in a lifetime if we live to be 75. No one alive, no matter the education or not, the ability or disability, no one alive has any more time each day than anyone else, here. Our world is like a clockmaker's shop with thousands of timepieces forever ticking. For some, life is just starting. For some, it's half over. For others, it's running down and will soon be stopped. Time marches on. Time moves in a relentless progression as the earth rotates and the planets spin, the seasons change, and new life replaces the old. Mom, you got this one right. Time waits for no man or woman. We tell time by clocks, by the position of the sun, the moon, and the stars, but we also tell time by wrinkles and gray hairs or no hairs and attitudes. And we tell time by how old our kids were when that happened, or where I was in that formative year. When I was young, we think we have all the time in the world. But having been in several intensive care units recently at a hospital just across the way, nurses and doctors say in whispered voices, it's just a matter of time now. The silence is broken only by monitors beeping and pumps wheezing and the steady, rhythmic throbbing of the machines. We heal or we die in moments of time. A young friend lost his dad suddenly. A question he was left with from that sudden death of someone he loved very much was, in the light of my dad's death, what do I do with the time I have left? He's 45. He's asking a question that's an imperative of this morning. What do we do with the time we have left? As we get older, time becomes more precious, which is probably why we feel like it's flying so fast, going faster than it ever did before. We always value what's scarce in the world, don't we? Things that are scarce are the most valuable. The less we have of something, the more value we place on it. Herein lies our wonder. We only have so much time. Time is a freely given gift, unearned and measured. Every single thing we do will cost us a piece of that precious time on earth. We spend already a third of our time sleeping. Eating and taking a bath costs us time. When we look at a normal day, it's astonishing how much time we spend on things with little, if any, significance. But when someone gives us their time, there's no more precious gift that they can give us. That's the truth. I don't care if they're 20 or they're 80. There's no more precious gift a human being can give you than their time. I am more grateful than I could ever put into words to the people who give me or who give the Catholic Student Center time, the gift of their limited, waning time on this planet. I'm grateful to you this morning that you chose the very first hours of this very beginning of this new year in your life, that are the first fruits of this thing called time. You gave us this hour, or maybe an hour, 10 minutes now, that you gave us this hour. I'm more grateful than I can say that you're here this morning. We all have some sense of time, I think it's true to say. But I guess what matters to me the most is who taught you how to tell time, because somebody did. We learned it from someone. Someone taught us how to tell time. Whether it's an enemy or a friend, even, we learned from someone. But on this first day of yet another year, I'd propose to you, in the spirit of Mary's Son, that it's time to let Jesus teach us. Let Jesus tell us how to tell time. A proper attitude toward time may not mean that we should try to cram more activity into each day. I'm telling you, if you look at the life of Jesus, he had an astonishing attitude towards time. For him, it was all about accomplishing the work of his Father. And those who knew him in the flesh must have marveled after his death at the way he spent his time. He never ran. He never seemed to be in a hurry. He didn't start his ministry until he was 30. Can you imagine how much more he could have accomplished if he would have started at 5 years earlier, 25? He waited till he was 30 to begin what was his to do. And in those 3 years, he had time to let little children sit on his lap. He had time to pray. He had time to rest. He had time to go to parties. He often spent time eating with people, getting lost in conversations, talking with them about the kingdom that mattered more to him than anything in the world. That was all he was sent to do, and he finished his work. How did Jesus do it? How did he manage to pull off such an astonishing relationship with time? 4 things. He knew exactly what he was called to do with his life. There were many things he could have done with his life, but only one thing was necessary, and he adamantly refused to be distracted from that mission. He did not try to do everything. Instead, he called others to help him. He called disciples and trained them to carry out with him his mission and beyond him. He multiplied his efforts 1,000-fold and gave millions of dedicated women and men an opportunity to share the joy and satisfaction of doing with him his work. I'm one of them, so are you. Third, Jesus understood his own limits, what he could do and could not do as a human being. He embraced the same human limitations that you and I have. For example, what it was to be tired, hungry, burdened. He simply took the time to rest, pray, and rebuild his spent energy. He took the time he needed to take to pray, to rest, and rebuild what was left of his energy. And he said to them again and again, come apart into a desert place, rest a while. For there were many comings and goings. and they had no time so much as to eat. So he said, come away. My friends, if we don't learn from him to come away, if we don't come apart and rest, we will simply come apart. And finally, he lived his life in the sure knowledge of the eternal now in time. He knew that when all the clocks had run down, when his earthly body had been killed, when people were finished with their little games all around him in his life, he would be able to be true to himself to the end in every moment of the time given to him. He would be true to himself to the end. He had this continual sense of eternity, and that continual sense of eternity gave him a different perspective on time, on the time that was his to live. His sense of the infinite, always with him, his sense of the infinite helped him appreciate the finite. It does for all of us. That same eternal and infinite perspective would help us. It would help us to have some very different priorities in time, and it would make relative the anxieties and the burdens of this moment in time in the light of this. Jesus can unteach and reteach what time is and how to really tell time. Because the truth of our life is, my friends, it won't be found in resolutions that we make at the turning of the year. It won't be found even in good intentions. But it will be in the things we do day in and day out. And the way the experiences of any moment we let change us. In conclusion, God has given us this wonderful gift of time. We can make the most of it by what we do with our lives. My friends, it's time. Time is too slow for those who wait, too fast for those who fear, too long for those who grieve, too short for those who rejoice. But for those who love, time is eternity.